George Tiller's murder is not over. Tonight, the pattern, the cycle of violence of the radical anti-abortion movement is renewing itself. It's a pattern that we reported on this show in the immediate wake of Dr. Tiller's assassination. Here's what you need to know about what's going on now. Back in 1993, after Michael Griffin killed Dr. David Gunn, the extremist anti-abortion group Army of God publicly released a manifesto of sorts supporting that murder, supporting Griffin, declaring the murder of Dr. Gunn justifiable, and proclaiming violence against abortion providers in general to be not just justified, but perhaps even necessary. One of the signatories to this disgusting, terrifying letter was a man named Paul Hill. Paul Hill, in 1994, shot and killed another abortion provider, Dr. John Britton, as well as James Barrett, a 74-year-old clinic escort. At least 6 of the people who signed that public statement in support of the murder of Dr. Gunn went on to do time themselves for violent anti-abortion terrorism. And today, we now know that at least 3 of the people whose names are on that list are in touch with Scott Roeder, the man who allegedly gunned down Dr. George Tiller in his church less than 3 months ago. According to new reporting from the Kansas City Star, Scott Roeder's jailhouse correspondents include Donald Spitz. He runs the Army of God website, where a copy of the pro-violence anti-abortion manifesto can still be found. Also, Dave Leach. He signed the manifesto and he wrote a how-to book for clinic violence. There's also Michael Bray, who was convicted in a series of clinic bombings back in the mid-1980s. This ominous theme in the militant anti-abortion movement is especially worrying because the perpetrators of violence aren't just being turned into martyrs. They're being turned into leaders, role models within the movement by virtue of having committed acts of violence up to and including murder. And what we're seeing now is the elevation of Scott Roeder to an exalted role in the extreme anti-abortion movement. Like Michael Griffin and Paul Hill before him, Roeder is being celebrated, visited, and consulted by militant movement leaders. The question of whether or not he acted alone is reportedly still being investigated. And of course, we're all left to worry whether the next Scott Roeder is being cultivated and nurtured and inspired by the extreme anti-abortion movement right now. Joining us now is Amy Hagstrom Miller. She's president and CEO of Whole Woman's Health, which is a network of clinics. Amy, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it.
What do you make of the parade of figures within the extreme anti-abortion movement corresponding with and going to meet with Scott Roeder? What do you think it means?
You know, for a long time, us abortion providers have known that this man didn't act alone, that these people are communicating and that it's a conspiracy and that they work together in strategy. To me, one of the interesting things right now is that they're parading, as you say, in broad daylight, almost in defiance that the government will do anything about it. I think about other domestic terrorism. I think about, you know, after September 11th, if we had a known suspect in jail, how the government would watch very closely anybody that came to visit him or her, anybody that called on her, anybody that sent him letters. And so to me, it's just amazing that these people are in direct contact with Roeder and that there's still a question in the air that there wouldn't be a connection, that this man acted alone. To me is just crazy thought. And that some of the biggest, most prominent leaders in the anti-abortion movement in the country are contacting him, are visiting, are writing, are in contact with him. And so to me, there's a connection here, and there's also a flagrant sort of publicity about it, that it's almost proud, it's almost defiant, asking, kind of knowing over the years of the continuum of anti-abortion violence that they're used to you know, conspiring, they're used to working together and not having anybody do anything about it.